All right. Hello, class. My name is Glen Clouse, and this is my co host.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roga.
And today we will be talking about the airline industry before the Civil Aeronautics Act of 1938. Some of the key topics we will be talking about today are the NACA, the major airlines in the industry, and one of the minor airlines. And at the end, we will ask some questions, just get some sort of consensus on how the industry was back then, what we think of it, and just general questions. So, the first point we will be talking about is the early years of commercial aviation, just to get some background on aviation up to this point. So, this will be like 1910 to 1930s. Aviation was still a young industry with commercial air travel growing in the late 1920s and early 1930s. The federal government had not yet regulated the industry, leading to intense competition and often erratic service, safety, and pricing.
Airline had to compete for their own without consistent rule or guarantee of safety standard, which led to some volatility in the market.
Some of the Now that we've talked about like the early years of commercial aviation, we're going to talk about the key airlines before the Civil Aeronautics Act. The first major airline is American Airlines. It was founded in 1930 through a merger of several small carriers. By the time the Civil Aeronautics Act was passed in 1938, American Airlines had established itself as one of the largest and most successful airlines in the US. Service focus. American focused on expanding its route network, offering more streamlined services with a larger fleet of aircraft, including DC 3s that were made by the Douglas Aircraft Company.
American Airline was beginning to dominate long-haul routes, particularly in the Midwest and the Southwest region. Challenges. The challenges faced intense competition from other carriers, which led to lower prices and inconsistent services. The lack of regulation also made the industry more unstable. Now that we talk about American Airline, we'll be talking about the Eastern Airline.
Eastern Airlines was founded in 1926 and primarily served in the eastern US between New York and Miami. It was known for its aggressive marketing strategy and promotional strategies, and it competed directly with American Airlines for control of the northeastern and southeastern routes.
During the 1930s, Eastern focused on improving passenger services and introducing better accommodation and more reliable schedules. However, as with other carriers, there was no safety standard and accidents were not uncommon. So this contributed to the instability in the industry.
The third major airline of this time period is Trans World Airlines, otherwise known as TWA, and it was founded in 1930 by aviation pioneer Jack Fry and aviation magnate Howard Hughes. TWA became a key player in transcontinental and international air travel, and it was known for focusing on longer routes, including transatlantic flights. It introduced some of the first all steel airplanes, such as the Lockheed Constellation, which helped boost its reputation for safety and speed.
And like the other airline, TWA was part of a larger struggle for dominance in a fragmented industry without any federal oversight on fair safety or operations. TWA also engaged in corporate maneuvers, including the acquisition of other smaller carriers to expand its route network. And for our final airline, we were talking about the United Airline.
The United Airlines were founded in 1926 through the merging of several smaller airlines, such as Varney Airlines and Boeing Air Transportation. And United was one of the largest airlines at the time, serving routes from coast to coast across the United States.
And it was already operating large fleets of advanced aircraft like the Boeing 247, and the airline focused on expanding both domestic and international routes. United faced competition from other large carriers such as American Airlines and TWA, but had a strong presence in the western US and the Pacific coast routes.
The next sort of area we will be talking about is the NACA, which is the National Advisory Committee on Aeronautics.
The NACA was formed in 1915 and was a key to helping the US catch up to the European investment in flight. By the 1920s, the committee was working hard to develop critical technology for both military and commercial aviation.
So, NACA's role in the 1930s. They conducted pioneering research in aerodynamics, aircraft engines, and wind tunnel testing, which directly influenced the development of more efficient and reliable commercial aircraft. Technological improvements spurred the growth, or their technological improvements spurred the growth of commercial airlines, leading to the expansion of airline routes and services. And these advancements also increased the aircraft stability, aerodynamics, and engine design, contributing to greater safety, reducing operating costs, and improving passenger comfort, which were very critical in this time period for growing the aviation industry. Their long-term impact can be seen by the groundwork they laid for future innovations in aviation and by the growth that they influenced of the aviation industry in the US, both commercially and militarily.
So in conclusion, NACA played a critical role in the technology and scientific development that supported the growth of commercial aviation during the 1930s. The research and innovation of the committee helped foster a more efficient, safer, and reliable aviation industry. And this helped set the stage for the widespread adoption of air travel in the coming decade.
The
Okay,
next part of this sort of podcast that we're going to be talking about is Pan American Airways before the Civil Aeronautics Act.
okay. Before the Civil Aeronautic Act of 1938, Pan American Airway, Pan Am, played a central role in the development of international air travel and establishment of commercial aviation network, particularly in the American and beyond. The airline focus was not just on domestic U.S. routes, but on pioneering international travel, and it was one of the most significant player in the aviation world in during the 1930s.
It was founded and established in 1927 by Juan Trippe, an aviation pioneer who sought to develop a commercial airline service between the United States and Latin America. The company was originally created to operate a mail contract for the US government. Its early operations, initially Pan Am focused on airmail routes between the US and Latin America. The airline secured a contract with the US Post Office, which laid the foundation for its long term business strategy. This was crucial because airmail contracts provided consistent revenue for airlines in the 1920s and 1930s.
Okay, and by the 1930s, Pan Am expanded its service to include passenger flight linking major cities in the American and Europe. The route included flights from the US to Cuba, Panama, and other Central American nations. And they eventually moved to offer service to South Africa and Europe.
All right. So did you know much about this era of aviation before this class?
Um, I didn't really know a whole bunch about this specific era in aviation before this class. I only knew like the basic, I guess, like Charles Lindbergh and the Wright brothers and stuff. So this was like something that I didn't really know much about.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know like any of this and where some of the major airlines that we see today come from. So just like reading through this chapter and seeing all these like names that I recognize today is actually really like interesting to me. And I think like I don't know, so far this is one of my favorite like topics discussed in aviation history just because it's where the stuff that we see today comes from. And now, would you fly on any of these airlines before 1938?
Let's see. I probably avoid most just because they were unstable and they were financially struggling, so it'd be like it would be unstable. So if I were to choose one, I would probably choose like maybe like one of the major ones, like American Airline. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would probably choose like United. United would probably be my choice if I did have to fly, but I don't know. I don't think even as a pilot that I would trust these airlines.
yeah.
Um, and to end our podcast, I'd like to quote the book. I think it has a very good ending paragraph for this section. It states the situation was not unlike that of the railroad industry with the Interstate Commerce Act of 1887 or the trucking and bus industry in the Motor Carrier Act of 1935, except for one thing. The airlines themselves wanted regulation. I think that kind of sums up like how the airlines reacted to the Civil Aeronautics Act. Like they wanted this because it was kind of the wild wild west before it.
Mhm.
And I think that's a good, really like summary of this chapter. So thank you for viewing. My name is Glen Clouse, and your co-host Roga.